Welcome, Matt, to Metallium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Exhumed, this new album, to that, and more things related to the metal world. Starting with a common question: how have you been during these crazy times? First, we started a pandemic 2 years ago. Now a war in Europe. So who knows what happened next couple of years? Alien invasion, zombie apocalypse, or perhaps the machine takes the power.
I mean, I don't want to get too into doomy and gloomy predictions. I think the last couple of years have been trying enough for everybody with, with the pandemic and everything else, the world sort of grinding to a halt or close to it. I can think of lots of horrible predictions, from climate catastrophe to American balkanization to all kinds of stuff. But right now, I'm just happy that we have a new record out. I'll just, hopefully predict that we're going to go on tour successfully without anybody, dying or whatever.
Okay. So can we say that is new to the end? It was composed and written during the pandemic, or was it before?
It was started before the pandemic, but then once the lockdown and stuff happened, it really started coming together a lot faster. None of us really live in the same area, so we're working remotely, so that aspect of it didn't really change. And then the pandemic also just kind of gave us a longer time to focus on, the sound of the record and really figuring out what we wanted to make. And we were able to also get some more like guest writers involved, former members of the band writing songs and stuff.
Well, we will speak about the last tour here in Latin America that you did with Young Creation a few years ago. So how about the experience to tour with Exhumed? I think for the first time here in Latin America, what kind of experience do you have? What country for you was more alive than the other, etc., etc.?
We had a lot of fun on that Latin American tour. Actually, I met a guy last night from Bogota, and we were talking about the gig that we did there. That was a really memorable one. We just had a really good time meeting the people, and I think the only issue that I think we came across was that some of the promoters after the show, they were giving us like cheeseburgers and stuff, and we're like, no, dude, we're in El Salvador, we want to eat local food. And they're like, oh, you're American, we thought you wanted cheeseburgers. Because I mean, in California, all I eat is Mexican food pretty much anyway. So but no, we really loved coming down there, and we're hoping to be able to get back to again soon. And it was cool because we got to play a lot of places we never played before, and just explore the culture and enjoy meeting the people and fucking just party and throw up in new places, man. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, for me, what I love Exhumed since the beginning, since your first album, Gore Metal, and now this to the end. Well, what the variations into your old discography is the same because with this gore grind style, death metal style into there. So, but for a fan like me, I always see that Exhumed keep of maintain the sound fresh in more than 20 years of I think more than 30 years of existence. So how you transmit this fresh maintain the fresh into Exhumed music and not repeat by yourself in each record?
I mean, I really appreciate you saying that, man, because I feel like after having been doing this for such a long time, that's really the biggest challenge, is to stay true to the sound of the band, but do something with each record that's a little bit different. And I think that, the bottom line is that we wouldn't be happy repeating the same thing and just being stuck in a fucking, loop or a cul-de-sac or whatever. And at the end of the day, I mean, we all really love the style of music that we play, and that has never changed. And I think the real key ingredient is that you know, we like playing with each other, and we like jamming together, and we like hanging out together, and we like being in the van together, and being on the bus or in the plane or wherever the fuck we find ourselves, you know. And I think that that is kind of, you know, that just helps keep me inspired anyway, because I'll come up with an idea and I'll just think like, oh, I can't wait to see what Mike comes up with for this, or what Sebastian comes up with, or what Ross comes up with. And I think that, you know, that sort of trust and that respect, it's kind of it's self-perpetuating, man. And also, you know, I don't want to bring an idea to the table musically that is weak or lazy or whatever, because I know the guys will be like, come on, man, you've already done this. This is the same old bullshit. So, you know, we just try to like find a overarching idea for each album, and then follow that, and then hopefully, you know, come out in a spot where the record isn't shitty. And, you know, sometimes it works better than others, but you know, that's the whole shooting works right there.
Okay, nice to hear that. So, and how do you avoid to confuse the riffs between all your bands, because you did all make compositions with Gruesome. Now you are playing with Left to Die. I saw that you play with Dead to All. So you have a lot of busy bands now. So how you do avoid to say, so this riff's going to the Gruesome, this riff's going to the Expulsion, to the Pounder, or perhaps this riff's going to the Left to Die. So how do you avoid this?
For whatever reason, I've always been really good at compartmentalization. You can ask any of my ex-girlfriends; they'll tell you all about it and be very angry. But I think it started like being able to think like that and put things in sort of different boxes. I learned that as a kid reading comic books, man, because, it's really cool because now with all the movies and shit, I can actually use this as an explanation and people know what I'm talking about. But, you know, when I was a kid, I loved the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and I also loved, you know, Justice League and the Teen Titans. And I realized like, oh, the Avengers can't fight the Justice League because DC people are over here and Marvel people are over here, just like Star Wars is over here and Battlestar Galactica is over there. And so keeping track of all these sort of fictional universes as a little kid, you know, I'm talking like 8 or 9 years old. That was a really helpful skill years later, keeping track of all these fucking heavy metal bands that I'm playing. It's like, no, this goes over here. This is what Exhumed does. And I also kind of have like a really linear, like rigid way of thinking. And I think that each band fulfills a specific kind of aesthetic purpose. I don't like bands that do like 20 different styles and every record is like totally different. So I like to kind of stay in a particular lane with each thing. And, you know, hopefully, I think it makes every band make more sense, or at least it makes sense to me. And, you know, I'm the one writing the music, so I guess that's the most important thing.
Okay. So now, since the beginning, Exhumed was with Relapse Records, with gore metal, and to this last album, to the end. So how do you keep a band like Exhumed with gore grind stuff, or grindcore stuff, with into a mainstream label like Relapse Records? Is it? So because it's very difficult, and many people doesn't love this kind of music. It's very for a different kind of very defining way to hear music. So no, it's not the gore grind death metal that you play is not for all.
I think that, you know, we're just doing what we want to do, and that's what we've always done. And, you know, what got me into this style of music was that you were able to be so heavy and so fast and so disgusting that it was just kind of like a sensory overload, you know? And I remember, you know, my mom, when I was a kid, like listening to one of our demos or something, and she's like, it just sounds like you're like trying to attack the listener. Why would people want to hear this? And I was like, that's perfect. Yes. It's like when you hear the record, it should be like we're trying to break through the speaker to like kill you. And that's, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's not going to appeal to everybody, but, you know, thankfully for whatever reason, enough people have, you know, kind of gotten on board with what we're doing over the years. And, you know, a big part of that has to do with Relapse too. You know, we've had a good business relationship with them for 25 years now. And it's been a very slow process of, you know, really, really little incremental kind of gains to the point now where, you know, we're able to really be in control of what we do. Like we have our own recording studio. We print our own shirts. You know, we kind of are mostly able to dictate our schedule and really do things on our own terms, which is, you know, it's pretty rare. And, you know, I feel really fortunate. So, yeah, I think that answers the question.
Okay. So we are living now in a world that, well, especially talking about people who are 15 or 20 years old, that this kind of people prefers to hear the music, all kind of music, with 1, 2, 3 songs into the digital platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Tidal, and more. So if we try to relate this aspect with the last album, especially one song from this new one, so what song capture whole essence, or what song define whole concept from this to the end?
Wow. I mean, I think that it's a little bit too broad for that, but if I had to pick one song from our whole discography, I think maybe Coins Upon the Eyes, which is the first song on Necrocracy, because it's got a little bit of everything. It's got like, you know, some quirky blast beat riffs, and it's got like a strong groove, and there's also kind of a section in the song where, you know, both guitar players get a spotlight. There's a drum break, there's a bass break, so you hear the whole band, you know, and you hear the multiple vocals and stuff. I think that it's kind of like it's a good like a sampler platter or whatever of what we do, you know. And I think that was kind of why we chose Drained of Color as the first single for this album, because we felt it was sort of the dip your toe in the shallow end of the pool of this album, because, you know, I think every album has its own vibe, you know, but there is a through line. So yeah, I guess Coins Upon the Eyes, you know, that would be the one I would show people, like, hey, this is what this band is, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as well, you are one of the but Exhumed is one of the biggest there into the gore grinding scene into US since the 90s. So how do you see now the scene, especially around the world, the gore grind style, that grinder style? Because I think these styles has no more bands like Last Days of Humanity or Regurgitate, assume this for this aspect, Carcass into the first time. And the last band that I hear as a new band is Miasmatic Necrosis. So how do you see now the scene from the gore grind style now?
I mean, you know, it has sort of waned. I mean, I think, you know, as far as what we do, we don't really think about, you know, what else is going on outside of our little sphere. But, you know, I think that as time goes on and trends in metal and the underground kind of shift, I do see more and more people kind of taking a look at the stuff that was happening in the mid 90s and the late 90s and being a little bit nostalgic for it. You know, there's a band called First Days of Humanity that sounds like Last Days of Humanity. There's a new band called Morgue Breath from LA that I think is really good. You know, so every once in a while you'll hear stuff. And, you know, because really in the 90s, you know, when you had Hemorrhage and Regurgitate and CSSO and Dead Infection and all these bands playing, you know, that was, I guess, sort of like the golden age, the Morbid Records era. And, you know, we never really considered ourselves like a gore grind band, but we were kind of, I guess, gore grind adjacent, you know. And we were friends with all those bands and we play with them. So I don't know, you know, I think if we thought we were a gore grind band, we would have called the first album Gore Grind, not Gore Metal. But I love gore grind, and it's definitely a big influence on us. So I would love to see more good bands coming out in the future, man. But Morgue Breath from LA was the last one that really fucking impressed me. I saw them play like a house party in my town in California. blew me away. They were great. And
Okay.
Musematic Necrosis was great too.
Okay. So, and with these aspects, can we say that the sounds from Exhumed with death metal, grindcore, and gore grind parts has a particular sound compared to the gore grind like Europe, like Last Days of Humanity and Carcass for the first two albums? So, can we say that these both areas has different sounds, have different attachments to see these bands from US and these bands from Europe?
I mean, you know, I can't speak for all bands from anywhere, but I think what we found that worked for us that was different is that we were, you know, from like 94, 95 even, we were always really influenced by, you know, bands like Exodus and Slayer and Razor and Creator and Sodom and stuff like that. And we weren't afraid to kind of be like shamelessly metal, you know, metal. And it's like, yeah, of course, there's blast beats and there's songs about rotting corpses. That's what we're all about. But at the same time, you know, we're not afraid to have like a Bay Area mosh riff or you know, like a more like articulated kind of like thrash style picking. And I think that was when we kind of, you know, when we very first started as kids, we didn't really have our own style. And I think when we started to find a way to bring in influences from the speed and thrash type metal, and then also like the old school like hardcore like Bad Brains and Minor Threat and Discharge and Exploited and stuff, when we were able to bring those into like the grind death kind of thing, that's when it clicked. And it's like, oh, this is what we do now. We're not just another band of 16-year-olds like trying to just, you know, rehash Napalm Death riffs or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so and now what is your opinion about the artificial intelligence into the music or in general into the art? Because as you can see, it's a curious thing also that the bands from grindcore or death metal grindcore or gore grind just play with one man band. It's usually since the 90s because we have Lymphatic Flag, we have Smash, we have a lot more that plays just one person in this style. So how do you see the artificial intelligence that are more like are related with the gore grind of the grindcore style since the beginning to now?
I mean, you know, I guess that kind of started with like what Mortation bringing on the drum machine in like 1994,
yeah.
I think, you know, and then, you know, there was a bunch of one-man bands in the States, mostly in the Midwest. It seemed like Putrid Pile and all that stuff. I mean, it's a weird thing because on one hand, without the modern recording and everything else, technology existing, we wouldn't be able to do the band the way we do it. It would be much more difficult, much more time consuming, and you know, it wouldn't allow me the time and just the speed of going from idea to finished product to do a lot of different bands and projects. So on one hand, the technology is great, but on another hand, you know, you just worry that you're losing some of the human aspects that I think is really kind of at the core of what creative art, even, you know, I mean, even gore grind is technically art. But you're losing some of the sort of personality and the humanity that, you know, is really what you're hoping people connect with, you know. And when you're able to sort of manufacture stuff out of the box, I mean, it's the same thing with all this like mid-journey AI art stuff. Now you can just, you know, have an algorithm paint you a fucking picture. And I'm sure in no time there's going to be an algorithm that will be able to just create music, you know. So that's kind of scary, you know. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like Jurassic Park, right? Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. But I mean, who knows? I'm sure things will adjust. And, you know, I'm probably just an old guy that's maybe afraid of change or afraid of being made even more obsolete than I already am. But I do get worried with just the technology, but at the same time, I'm dependent on it. So, I mean, you know, it's a double-edged sword. What can you fucking do?
Yes. Well, and to this aspect, Exhumed belongs to the grinding death metal era with the classic stuff, creating for musicians, well, for old musicians that loves to play this kind of music. But now the generation of death metal players, guitar players, drummer players, they want to do the things like a machine. As you can see, the new drummers are like a machine. It's not the it's like the same. So, what's your opinion about these sides of the music? They more musicians wants to sound like a machine and not like Exhumed like the old days.
I mean, I think that, I see both. I see that a lot, but I also see a lot of kids that are interested in, kind of doing something like a little bit more raw as well, because they're also tired of things that are so precise. I think we all have that desire for perfection, right? We want to be the best version of ourselves. We want to, it's just like, when you take a picture of your fucking chick for Instagram, she's like, let me see that picture. No, I look ugly. Change the angle, take it again. And that's what people are doing, in the studio, sitting there and, mapping every single beat onto a click and making sure every single note is in tune and all this, because, that's just being a person, right? You want people to see you at your best and to hear you at your best. And, but I prefer stuff that is just more warts and all and is more honest. I love, the first Carcass album or the first Venom album or the first Sodom album, that it's really a mess, So we try to kind of find a balance between, getting good performances and doing our best, but not not producing it to death so it sounds clinical, or because I think some metal records now, they're so perfect, they sound kind of polite, and our music is not supposed to be polite.
Yes.
So it's a hard balance, and I totally get, because I love mistakes on other people's records and I hate them on my records. So I get why people do this. I just think I just want to hear the person playing, though. I don't want to hear, quantized everything down to the fucking microsecond. You are like, art is supposed to be about self-expression, and I think you can kind of disappear up your own ass if you go too far that way,
Okay. Okay. So we are very close to this interview, Matt. And for that, what are the future plans that the band has for this to get? Perhaps more North American tour, European tour, or who knows, a new tour here in Latin America? Because the first time when you played in Lima, I was there, and I might get a lot of emotion there because I hear your band since the beginning. So to now, so perhaps a new Latin American tour will be great for the Zoom. And
I would love to, man. I think, we had a bunch of stuff like everybody else that got canceled when the pandemic started. So we're just kind of working through trying to reschedule that. So we have a North American or an American tour. It's starting in November, and that goes almost until Christmas. And then next year we're going to be rescheduling for Europe, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and then hopefully we'll be able to return to Latin America now that we have a new album and it's been a couple of years. And I want to play everywhere, man. I want to play in, the fucking on the moon or the Gaza Strip or the fucking Antarctica. Like, fuck it. Let's do it. So, hopefully we'll be able to just get back out and make up for some lost time,
Okay. So, as he said, well, talking about other things, we are very close to end this interview. So, what is your opinion about some people are love your project like Gruesome? Some people say that Gruesome is a big example for the death era from the leprosy and the Scream Brought the Glory, etc., etc. But other people, like I think like old guys talking, I don't know, for 50 years or 60 years, they think that they think this is just a copy and paste from the old days and no more new music. So what is your opinion about the haters of Gruesomeness? Because I read a lot on Facebook pages that hate they hate the Gruesome because it's too similar with the old sound with that.
I mean, the entire point of creating Gruesome was to play music that sounded like early death. So I mean, if they're mad because it's similar to early death, then I guess we succeeded. I mean, Gruesome was a band that I didn't really think anything would come of. I thought it was just going to be like a fun project, and that would be the end of it. And then the record came out, and a lot of people ended up liking it. And I'm literally driving, or I'm not driving, but I'm riding in a van to go play a Gruesome show in Seattle right now. So the band went much further than I ever sort of intended it to. I remember when we were working on the first album, I was telling my wife, like, oh, don't worry, like, we're never going to play a show. Like, maybe we'll play like one festival or whatever. And then, like years later, all these tours that we've done, she's like, you're never going to play a show, huh? All right, smart guy. So we tried from the very beginning to make it really, really blatantly obvious that it's a tribute band. We used the same kind of artwork. We have the same kind of logo. And if you think to yourself, why do I need a tribute band? I already have the Death records. I think that is a completely fair conclusion to draw. And some people want more of that style, and if so, I did, and that's why I made the record. And if other people want more, that's great. And if you don't want more, that's great too. And we also try to show that we were doing things really respectfully. The first people that we talked to about the band were Eric Greif, Chuck's manager. And I've met Eric. I've met Chuck's sister. I've met his cousin that does all their, or his nephew rather, that does all their social media stuff. And they've been like, "Hey, we love what you're doing. You're keeping Chuck's music out there." And I'm like, "Okay, well, if it's okay with you guys, and it's okay with Terry Butler and James Murphy and Sean Reinert and all these guys, then if some dude on the internet is mad about it, I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. That's fine. You can be mad about it all you want. You don't have to listen to it. There's a million fucking bands out there. Listen to whatever you want." So I just do shit that is fun for me, and I don't expect everybody to like not even everything I do. I don't expect everybody to like anything I do. So it's totally normal that people would be mad about it. I don't know, man. But if people care enough about the band to be pissed off about it, then that's a good sign that the band has done something that is, it means something, even if people are mad about it,
Okay. Well, we are, and what's your opinion about this Pantera reunion without without the Bolt brothers, the Abbott brothers, and now you play with Death to All without Chuck. So it's a very, and I saw a lot of gigs without Dio into there. So what's your opinion about these aspects? It's more that publicity, is more just it's more money. So what's your opinion?
I mean, I'm not a Pantera fan. I don't really care about Pantera at all. So I have no skin in that game. I would just say this, that, I saw Death a bunch of times. I saw him for Spiritual Healing. I saw him for Human. I saw him for, I think it was Individual Thought Patterns. I saw him for Sound of Perseverance. And that's great. That's really cool for me. But there's a whole generation of kids that are into this style of music that never saw Chuck perform, that probably got into death metal before or after he was fucking dead. And if those kids want to go and see Death to All or Left to Die or Gruesome or whatever, and if these Pantera fans, would never saw the Abbott brothers play, but this is the best they can get, if they want to spend their fucking money on it, that's great. I mean, I'm not in charge of anybody else's experience. I know all I have is my experience, and I can't sit around worrying about what other people do, because you'll just fucking spiral. You'll spend all your time thinking about pleasing other people or whatever. I try to do the right thing as best I can, and I'm far from perfect, but I don't really give a shit what other people do or think. And I care a lot about what certain people that I know and respect think, and then what other people think, I don't really give a second fucking thought. It's like, don't read the fucking YouTube comments. And most of the people that are really upset about this stuff are people that are not even really involved in it. Every time we make a post on the Exhumed page that people complain about, I'm like, these people, they're not coming to our fucking shows, they're not buying our shit, like they're just on the internet to like bitch. And that's cool. There's tons of stuff I think sucks, but I don't waste my time and energy going around talking about it. there's too much shit that I think is awesome. So let's focus on the shit that's killer. And if it doesn't, be indifferent to that which makes no difference is my philosophy. It's not mine. I didn't make it up, but I've adopted it.
Great to know, Matt. So, well, Matt, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoy this one like me. It's a huge pleasure to It's a huge pleasure to talk with you because I'm a fan of your band since the Gore Metals. I told you to now. I got all your records in CD. I did my pre-order from the last album. I went to your show in Lima, so I hope someday we'll see again Exhumed live. So perhaps you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metallerium followers.
Absolutely, man. We all love playing Latin America, from Buenos Aires to Guadalajara and every place in between, and we're really hoping to be able to get back there as soon as possible now that we have a new record, now that we can actually move around more or less the world. That was one of the most memorable tours that we did, getting to see so many cool places and meeting killer people down there. Like there's something about the Latin American fans, like they're fucking intense. A lot of times you play New York City and there's tons of people there, and they're all cool people or whatever, but they're just like, right on. And then you go and you play in Peru or you play in Costa Rica, and people are fucking losing their minds, and it's just so killer, that people give a shit about what we've done to that level. It means a lot to us, and so we hope to see all you guys down there soon, man.